I'm here with my buddy Theo at Around the Block Engines. Show me around, tell me about this place, tell me about yourself and your story.
All right, well, my dad started the business 38 or so years ago now.
Yeah.
I bought it from him about 3.5 years ago, and basically been turning it into a full-time business. Basically I machine and restore and assemble vintage engines.
Vintage, like when to when?
So nothing newer than about 1955, and I mean as oldest I've had is 1912.
Wow.
So
that's cool.
Is my hair okay?
So our kids go to the same school together, so we've seen each other in parking lots, but it's just like another guy in the parking lot. You don't know anything about him. You know, you see him over and over and over again over time, and then like a year, 2, 3. Your wife is actually my doctor, and
really?
Has been for like 11 years.
Are you serious?
Yep. You didn't even know that.
No, I'm not allowed to know. I don't.
Oh,
She
really?
doesn't tell me anything unless someone says,
hilarious.
"Hey, say hi to your husband for me." Then
Yeah.
she says, "Oh yeah, so this person's my patient," and they say to say hi.
That's too
crazy.
funny. Yep.
Well, I know then you're being well taken care of.
Well, so I've known for 10 or 11 years, 12 maybe, that she was like, my husband is into drift cars. And I was like, oh, he must be cool. And then here we are. So anyway, I think we were at some event and you drove your Nissan 240 and I was like, oh, that's a sweet car. And that just slowly started the conversation between us, right? And we're like,
remember
wow,
that day.
we actually get along.
Yeah.
And I've had that with, 2 or 3 other dads in the parking lot. And eventually you're like, whoa, you're really, really cool.
Yeah.
Like, how did we spend so long not knowing that,
Yeah, well, he said, "Oh yeah, I really like your car." And I was like, "Yeah, thanks." You know, back in my mind, I'm like, I think everybody does.
Yeah.
But then you're like, "Yeah, and you have that Volvo."
Yep.
And I was like, "Oh yeah, like never miss that yellow Volvo." And I respect what Volvos are. They're rear-wheel drive. And
Yeah, that one's front-wheel drive.
oh, okay, right on.
Yeah.
Some of them are.
Yeah,
and some of them are turbo. And
Yeah, exactly.
and then you divulged that you put turbo on and did all that kind of tuning stuff, and then it was like, okay, we got a bond here.
Yeah, exactly. So I've got this, I'm trying to make the bearings for our knives out of this 1/2-inch Delrin rod, trying to put it on the Swiss machine and get it off the Nakamura. I've got a hard inch collet that's a 1/2 inch, but it would not fit over the bar. It would get stuck because the bar's like 502, 503, and the collet's 50, and I didn't want to just wait a couple weeks to buy an oversized collet. So you were one of the first people that I maybe even the first and only person that I asked. I was like, how would you open this up? Because I've got a couple ideas, but I keep dismissing them. And you're like, call me. That's the first thing you said, is just call me. So you've got a Sunnin and engine hone, or just hone? What do you call it?
It's a pin hone, I guess, is
Okay.
the slang word for it.
Sweet. And I know some of my knife maker friends, Brad, Ken, some other people have this exact machine and use it for knife making, like the pivots and things like that. So this is the first time I've been to the shop, so I'm actually really excited to be here, and it's a good excuse for us to like hang out.
Exactly, yeah.
So yeah. So we're gonna go through, we're gonna hone this to a size to get this thing, because I need it to slip through perfectly. Like basically if you drop it, I need it to fall through for it to work on the Swiss. So we're gonna take, what do you think, 2 or 3 thou off the idea of this?
Yeah. If it's a 1/2 inch, then yeah, I mean 3 thou. We'll make it work.
Yep, we'll make it work. Basically. So we're gonna do that. So what do we got here?
So this is the this is the Sun honing machine. My main uses for it are for connecting rods. After I push out the old wrist pin bushing and press in the new one, I have to burnish it, which this one's been burnished. I don't have the pistons or the pins, so I don't want to hone it yet. I want to, it's got to be within.
Got to make sure they fit to each other.
Yeah, exactly. And they're usually all the same, but I don't take chances. So,
yeah.
So it's burnished. We just have to wait till the pistons get here, which will be next week, and ready to go to hone those out. But also the large end here that the bearing sets into has to be exactly, I forget what the size is, but it's got to be right on. So that part's done. These are pretty much ready to go. Just one last hone, and they'll be ready to be cleaned and installed.
So how does it work?
There is, basically I've got many different manuals here for many different things that my dad's collected over the years.
Yep.
To do the large end of the connecting rods, we've got this one here.
It's a big boy. Okay, so I see a stone there, or two sides of a stone.
Yep, two sides, same stone basically.
And then what are those?
This is out because I've got to replace it, but these are like a bronze wearing pad. So this is what the opposite side hits as your...
Okay, so that whole thing goes into the bore, the big end of the connecting rod. Yep,
it goes into here, and then basically when I push my foot pedal, it does two things. It starts the motor turning, and it, depending on how much pressure I put in the pedal, it will expand this. It'll push this in here. As I push that, you can see this move up here. If I can...
Oh yeah, I saw it move a little bit.
It's hard to push it in that deep, I guess. But...
okay, so the stone comes up evenly.
Yep, stone comes up evenly. It's got two ramps on it.
And then it's basically wedging itself into the hole.
There's two ramps there, one,
okay, yeah,
two,
one there.
And then you'll see the mating surface here.
Okay. So by nature, it's fairly parallel.
Yes. If it's not, then something's wrong.
Yeah. And I guess the stones are relatively self-wearing, so they'll, as long as you have a good movement in and out.
They are self-wearing, but then I have what's called a truing sleeve.
Okay.
So every once in a while you want to run that over. Just to take off any high spots. You know, the edges might not get hit, or if you go too fast, then the center's not going to get worn enough. Usually the center gets its fair share of wear, though.
Sweet.
Then, so this would be actually the one for the wrist pin bushings.
The small end, yeah.
Yep, so I've got the fine stone in there right now. And then
would you go through different stone grits, or?
Yeah, just because those I'm taking off quite a bit, so I'd use a coarse.
I can see it.
Coarse stone first, and then a fine stone for the finish.
Okay.
And the clearance there would be about a half to 6/10.
Okay.
Is optimal. Basically, you want to get a good slip, like what you're looking for in your collet. Just drop it down, maybe a little bit less. You want, with the oil in there, you just want a slow little.
Yep.
Little slip.
So, grind, measure, grind, measure, grind, measure.
Exactly, and this is the measuring.
Oh, sweet!
Tool
it's
here.
Right up, built in.
Yep. So these pins are for a larger diameter. You take these pins out, and then there's little contacts here. So this side here, you can see the gauge move.
Nice. And then you've got a lubricating oil.
Yep.
Super thick and goopy.
Yep, exactly.
Super cool.
Yeah, it's a good machine. Sun makes excellent machines.
All right, it's clean, test fit. That is perfect. That's gonna work so good. Because the way the bar feeder in the Swiss works is there's a pusher that's pneumatically operated, so like air pressure. So it's gotta be pretty friction free to be able to shove this bar forward. And now we can. Eric told me we will be out of bearings by tomorrow night. So I have today and tomorrow to program, set up, install all my tools, not crash anything, and make some bearings.
So technically you could take the afternoon off and just say, I'm having trouble getting this done, and then come in tomorrow morning, I saved the day.
Yep. Nailed it.
So yeah, I basically take stock, and I'll I'll bore the middle a little bit, and then basically bring it to rough sizes, and then the outside would be about 4 thou interference fit going into the block. About 3 thou interference fit going into the block.
It's quite a bit.
Yeah, and then basically press it in, and then line bore the center.
Okay. Cool. It's sweet to be able to make stuff like that as you need it, hey?
It is. I love doing bronze bushings, bronze bearings.
So what's the story with this one?
This is a 1934 Bugatti Type 57. It's a one-of body style, a cabriolet. So pretty rare. A gentleman from Ontario brought this down, and I have to basically fix it. Somebody did the Babbitt work, and it's not right. It's not centered. They did some things that were just not right. So that's what I do. I do things properly, and so basically we're gonna melt the Babbitt out of here. This is a bronze shell. I'm gonna make a mold, small mold, re-pour the Babbitt in here, put it back in here after it's cleaned up, and then line hone it so that everything is true and straight. They've done something in here. There's a copper lining in here, which is not bearing material. So I have to figure out what I'm going to do there yet. But basically replace the wrist pin bushings, and then probably going to be cutting this out a little bit and then putting a layer of Babbitt in there so it has the proper bearing material.
Beautiful.
This is out of a hearse that's being restored in Niagara Falls.
Cool.
Yeah, a lot of neat woodwork on that from what I hear. So basically I've done the Babbitt main bearings already, and I just got the connecting rods back from them. I'm doing the work for a machine shop, so they're doing some work and I'm doing some work. So now it's time to pour the Babbitt into the rods, machine them, and it'll be out the door. Getting a little newer, 1934 Ford flathead V8.
You said this one's finished, ready to go?
Yep, this one's ready to go. The customer's going to do some finishing touches on it, but so I ground the flywheel. Another one where somebody had done some work and it wasn't quite right. Luckily the customer didn't put it in the car and blow it up, so we got in just in time. Again, to do with bearings, you need to be precise, that kind of stuff.
I love seeing these cast made in Canada.
Oh yeah, that's nice. He's got 2 sets of these.
Wow.
And these are nice, and that's original finish, so that's nice to have. A couple other Ford flathead V8s. This is from the first year of Mercury, and that one there is a 1947 block that's going into a fully restored car.
So we got part storage up here, because your dad is also into cars, like not just building the engines, but building the cars as well, eh?
Correct, yeah, he's got a couple of 1932 Fords, original steel, rare cars.
Wow.
Through window coupe, Victoria, some cool stuff. So yeah, he's collected parts over the years, and part of this business too, people sometimes just say, hey, can I pay for a part of my job with parts? And I mean, usually it's a no, but sometimes you know, drop off whatever and we'll see if we can do something.
What about you personally? Are you into the old cars?
I have an older car. It's a 97 240 SX. I will never get rid of it, but I do feel a want and a need to get something that's more geared to what I'm doing. Something with a flathead. Like, I mean, a 32 Ford would be awesome, but I don't have that much money. Something's gonna fall in my lap one day, hopefully. Yeah,
that's probably true. Yeah.
Something 30s, late 30s, do a period correct engine.
I love how a 97 is an older car.
Yeah.
Like my 95 yellow Volvo. It's like, now it's an older car. To me, it's like, oh, it's not that old. Like,
yeah, well, I mean, and I had my sister down from Cochrane, Alberta, and she's like, it's so nice, but it's just different, like you sit lower, you don't have this, this bubble around you that's just changes your experience. It's more open, more free, probably not as safe, but it's too much safety these days anyways.
Yeah, exactly, right. Cool. Yeah, so I guess before all this, you were more into the like turbocharged, like drift and I mean, me too. Yeah,
you can't beat the turbo.
No, you can't beat a turbo.
It's fuel efficient, not like a supercharger.
Exactly. Eric and I used to be super into cars and building our old Volvos to go, 300 horsepower and weld the diff and just all kinds of crazy stuff. Yeah. That's
I built. The second engine I built was the 240 engine.
Yeah.
I blew it up racing at Downsview Park. turbo on, didn't tune it properly.
Yep.
And but yeah, now it's got forged internals, 313 horsepower and 365 torque, and more fun than you need.
Yeah. But now you get to kind of continue the legacy of this place.
Yeah, and that's one of the big benefits. My dad built a good reputation. You know, people call up and they just, you know, oh yeah, I got your name from so and so like 10 years ago. You know, this guy's driving around with this engine and he said that your dad did it, and you know, are you still doing this? And I've got the same heart that my dad did. So,
is it mostly local customers?
Mostly from Ontario.
Yeah.
There's a lot from like Western Ontario, Southwestern Ontario, like Chatham, Fergus, all those, like that's like a hotbed for vintage cars.
Yeah.
I mean, RM Restorations is out there. I don't know if they're there because of that or if it's just a good place to be. I don't know, but it's a lot out there. Ottawa, there's a ton of people up in like the Ottawa, you know, Gatineau, Quebec area that send their stuff down here.
Perfect. I mean, once you develop a reputation of doing it right, of being able to fix other people's wrong work, of, you know, customer gets it and it's always right and they're always happy, then they'll come back, they'll tell their friends. That's how it works. Treat people right.
That's it. You do the right thing. You know, you make a mistake, you make it right. That's bottom line.
I mean, you've got that mentality. You physically can't do it wrong. Like, you can't do something knowingly that it could be better.
I probably spend too much time double checking and triple checking things.
Totally.
I lose sleep easily,
Yep.
but I sleep well. So
yeah. Well, there you go. That's a good way to put it.
So yeah, no, making it right is it. You can't, and that's where like my next step in growth is hiring an employee. But I don't know how I could do that, you know, without knowing the person, without knowing that they have the same interest in making it right and keeping tolerances and, you know, not forgetting that thing and, you know, checking things a couple of times.
There's so many variables to that. I mean, you hire the experienced guy that you can just trust and he does good, or you hire somebody with the mentality and the vision and they understand it. Like, you can see that they've applied it to something else in their life,
right? And
then you can train them the skill, but you know they've got the spark.
Right.
That works too.
But then on top of that, I'm a different person. I mean, everybody's different, but even my dad, like he does things right, but we do things differently than each other. So, you know, even just the transition I've made, purchasing the business from him and moving along, things have kind of changed, you know. So,
and that has to be okay. I mean,
definitely.
When you hire somebody, they might do something differently as well, and as long as it's okay, it's okay.
And that's the part of the acceptance of bringing in someone different into your life.
It's hard.
Yeah.
I mean, my wife and I do things differently, and we can't work together, you know, as closely as I can with my brother or my team or whatever.
Right.
Because we're just different, and as long as we separate work, then we're fine.
Yeah, and that's part of having a relationship is
exactly
accepting and compromising.
Yep.
And being able to live with it and accept it. And, and at the end of the day, in your family as well, you want to have a good product.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Not that it's just a product, but
success. That's success everywhere.
Yes.
So show me this. What's going on here?
So this is the basics of the business. This is what started it, and this is what I do that not many can. So this is a Babbitt metal.
So what is Babbitt? I've never really understood it.
So this is the ingot that you buy. It's partially melted off, but it's a high percentage of tin and antimony and copper, and it basically the tin in the Babbitt becomes semi-fluid in the bearing, and then allows for, you know, deflections in, you know, 100-year-old cast iron, things like that. It's a very slippery metal that has malleability. So, you know, if there is something that happens, it can, like if there's a little, you know, old cars didn't have filters. So
oil filters?
Right.
Jeez.
Like they didn't start filling oil in mainstream cars even until probably about the 50s.
What?
Late 40s, early 50s.
That's insane.
Yeah. I mean, there was a screen that was, you know.
So the chunks don't come through.
Yeah.
The flies and stuff, but.
Yeah, well, a fruit fly would go for sure. But, so, I mean, if a little particle went through, it would actually sink into the Babbitt, much like, I don't know if you've ever used a clay bar on your car.
Yeah.
Same exact
sucks
type
up
of
all
thing.
the dirt and stuff, and
not all, but if there's something significant, it's you know, where on a modern car it would take out that bearing and that crankshaft.
Well, in a modern car, like when I built my 240 and my Volvo 240 engine, it's probably just like your Nissan 240 engine. You just buy bearings.
Yeah.
Plus 10, plus 20, plus 30.
Oh, yeah.
Put them in.
Yeah.
And then this is so much different, though.
You can't get on the phone and order Babbitt.
Yeah.
I mean, rods, there are places that will, you know, you can just mail order connecting rods.
Yeah.
But, I mean, and that's sometimes a customer will say to me, can I send you my rod? I'll tell you the size. I will do that, but I cannot guarantee the fit because I don't know who's measuring it.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
2 guys use the same micrometer. They've got different pressures, you know. I mean, 1/10, 2/10 is probably not going to make a difference, but yeah, so basically I heat up. This is my number 1, so this is the pure Babbitt. I don't use this. This is basically what I melt out of the old rods, out of the old bearings. So I don't know what the chemical makeup of this. This is guaranteed to be the Babbitt that I want. So this is the new material that goes into the rods. So yeah, so when this gets full, I will melt it into my own ingot, and the odd time someone will come by who pours Babbitt in their backyard and they'll purchase it. But,
so what's happening here? It heats up and it melts it.
Yeah, so there's propane feeds these burners. It'll melt it. It melts at, I'm not sure, the melting point is probably around 600 degrees, but I bring it to about 800, 850 degrees.
Celsius?
Celsius, yeah. So what I use this, I don't only use this for melting, but I use it for tinning the seconds. So there's 2 ways to basically anchor your Babbitt, to bond your Babbitt to the shell or the connecting rod or whatever it is. There's a mechanical bond, which is basically there's holes in the casting that you fill. I don't know if I have any examples here. Anyways, something like this, so the Babbitt's been removed here. There would be a couple of holes, like 3/8 or 5/16 holes drilled in here. The Babbitt would flow into that, and that's what would hold it in place.
Yeah.
So that's a mechanical bond. This one, you can see it's shiny. There's no Babbitt in here, but there's just a little bit of, it's called tin. It's tinned. So if you clean this metal perfectly and purely, the tin will actually chemically bond itself to this. So that's what's been done here.
So this is part of an engine.
Yes,
this is the cap.
This is a rear main bearing cap from an early Ford, like a 32 to 36 Ford V8.
So then to put in the bearing, you're physically pouring molten metal into the main cap.
Exactly.
And then same on the block, and then you line bore it, so it's perfect.
Correct. Yes. This one I have an actual jig for, but typically you would pop this in here, get the right mandrel in there, set up your heights. Again, this one does not go in here, but just to show you there. So that goes in here. You get your pins to hold it in place and to hold it back. And then this is your pocket to pour the Babbitt into, and then the holes where it would flow into the bearing. This would, with this lever here, this would clamp this down and keep everything tight, because once this is fluid, I mean, it'll leak out if there's any holes. So this bucket would basically go under there to catch everything, and then I can recycle it.
Yeah.
This expensive stuff, so you want to, there's almost zero waste.
That's cool.
These are the cuttings.
Oh, so that's your
job.
spent Babbitt, your cut. And you just put that back in.
Yep.
Just looks like aluminum to me.
It is. It feels like aluminum. Like you won't cut yourself on this. So this is how it starts. That's how the product ends.
That's cool.
Here's a couple that have been poured.
Wow.
Especially on the early Fords, that's, it's a large quantity of my business, so I have some spares and I'll pour a few whenever I do one. So there's some inconsistencies here, so I'll basically take a rod of Babbitt that I've poured and hardened, and I use it as a soldering tool to basically fill these. So you melt it, dab some in, fill it up, it's all going to get bored in the end anyways.
Nice.
And these will be cleaned up, sandblasted. When they get heated to 900 degrees, when you pull them out, they get a bit of rust on them. You can see how the metal just kind of comes out. So this is one that has been pulled out, hasn't been melted or anything, but it's got a kind of a gray color. So this probably has a little bit more lead. Well, my Babbitt does not have lead in it. Lead is more for industrial based Babbitt that's like slow turning and can carry a super heavy load. So that's another reason why I don't use my number 2 for anything except tinning, because there's going to be higher amounts of lead in that. There's another one that looks like, you know, different people do their oil grooves differently. This was, you know, carved by machine. The other one looks like it was carved by hand.
Super cool. And then you've also got all kinds of old, not some old, some new.
Yeah, so this is my head shop. It's called by Quickway, and for cutting valve seats, inserting new valve seats. Basically, if it's a flathead block, then you mount the block on here, and then this will turn. If it's a V,
it's like a 4th axis.
And you put your manuals in here and do your cutting and stuff. Very handy machine. It's got an air bed table, so you fill it up, you hook it up to the air, push this, and it basically slides where you need to, so you can center.
Oh, really?
So you can center it up. Yeah.
That's sweet. Air bearings for the win. I love air bearings.
They don't wear out.
I know. So this gap right here then.
Yep.
Then becomes an air bearing.
Exactly.
And the whole thing just kind of floats. Ah, that's so cool.
Yeah, if I had air in the system, I could show you, but it's not full.
Sweet. And this is a cylinder hone?
Yep, it's a honing machine. There's newer versions that are, you know, have a power hone, but this baby works by hand, which works just fine.
So I guess it's got a couple U-joints. So that it just self-aligns. You put the block where you need to.
Yeah, I mean, I like to get it nice and close.
Of course.
To reduce, you know, any kind of taper or anything. But and then this is your tightening and your loosening. So. Oh,
that expands the
stones.
The stones, yeah.
Yeah. So when you turn it on, you kind of hold this, you know, a little bit, and it'll expand. And then when you're honing, then you want to retract them before you pull it out, so you don't cock it on the way out.
Right, makes sense.
So then you kind of just grab this for a second, bring it up, and you're clear.
Sweet. And then you've got your dingle ball hones.
Yeah.
Use this to put the finish on?
Yeah, just to, not for the finish, but just to kind of, I'll run that through just to take the high edges off of the cut.
So yeah, this should be good. Thank you very much, man.
Hey, no problem.
Yeah, it was fun.
Yeah, it's great having you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, if you ever need anything, let me know.
Okay.
Cool. All right. Hope you guys enjoyed. See you next time.